Hi, I'm Jason, and I love movies that people seem to hate. That has just been my MO since day one, I guess. You know, when you're growing up as a kid and you're watching movies, you don't concern yourself with what people think about films. You just like what you like. And then when you grow up and the internet became a thing, you're like, oh, this movie's hated? Why? And I just, the majority of time that I see people harp on this movie, like 99% of the time, and I'm not going to try to get too preachy about this, but the main complaint I hear about this movie is that it has gay undertones. Why is that a negative? And I'm not being like, you should accept homosexuality or whatever. I'm not preaching here. I really am not. You are into whatever you're into. You want to be against whatever you want to be against. But really, like, gay undertones makes you don't like them. Like, that's not a negative. That's not an anything. That's just a part of the movie. Like, I could see if you're like, Freddy's awful in it. I don't like this. I don't like that. But it's 99% of the time. It's just like, I don't like the gay undertones. Okay. That's it. That's an odd thing. Like, if that's all you dislike about this movie, you may need to question some things about yourself seriously. As I said, I'm not trying to get too preachy, but come on. Anyway, grow up. I do have this, Jesse's Lost Journals, written by Mark Patton on his experience with the Nightmare on Elm Street, series, being in part 2, and when he was cast and after the movie and how much everyone hated it and cool stuff. And he signed it here for me. Do you mount her nightly? Which is my favorite line. One of my favorite lines. This movie has so many incredible lines. Thank you to Jeremy Todd Moorhead for getting that for me. That was a great present. Anyway, let's get into the movie. I love everything about this film. Everything about this movie. It is my favorite in the series by far. And it is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. Now, does nostalgia play a factor in that? Of fucking course it does. How much does a nostalgia play a factor into all of your loves of movies and whatnot? Huge. Of course. It's a nostalgia thing. But it doesn't make any difference. It's still one of my favorite movies of all time. That isn't going to fucking take away from it. I adore this film. I personally think it has like the best everything in the series. I think it has the best Freddy, the best makeup, the scariest Freddy, the best dialogue, the best characters. I love the effects in this movie. I love everything about this movie. There's literally nothing. Going back and rewatching it again, I was really trying to watch it with like a critical eye, and I was really trying to just take away the nostalgia filter, like the glasses that I wear, and I'm just like, this movie's amazing. Oh my God, it's awful. No, I took them off, and I still loved the movie. There was a little hint of nostalgia. But I love it. I genuinely feel like this movie, I don't ever use the word underrated because I think that word is stupid, but I think it's extremely underappreciated. Anyway. Let's get into characters. Now, Jesse is not the typical hero of a film. Usually in these kinds of films, you get a woman leading role. It's the scream queen. It's the final girl. And in this movie, you get the final boy. And I love it. I love that he isn't a tough guy either. I like that he's able to have some emotions. And I love that he has a girly scream. And I love that he's just not a typical boy. Like, I love Mark Patton in this movie. I love Jesse Walsh. Sue me. He's great. And he's just... Now, Jesse in the opening of the movie, when he's on the bus with the girls, and this is his dream, he looks not only extra dorky, because he never looks that dorky in the movie at all, but he almost looks pale and sickly. And it makes me wonder, because it's his dream. Does he perceive himself that way? Like, is that how he sees himself? Does he see himself as extra nerdy and sickly looking? Like no one would want to approach him? Like he's unapproachable? But in his dream, he's riding the bus. But in real life, and I get it, your dreams don't match up in reality. There's plenty of things I do in my dream, and then I wake up and I'm like, why was I doing that? Like, I have a house. Like, why was I, living here? But yeah, I mean, he gets up and he has a car and he drives this girl to school. But yeah, I was really paying attention to that this time, being like, why does he see himself this way? And he doesn't jump in front of the girls to save them. He's pinned behind them. He's like pushing them, like he's like, no. He is like a scream queen in this. He's not. I'm not gonna be a hero. I'm not gonna jump in front of these girls. And I like that we kind of established that almost instantly. And then we get the girly scream that he gives. So it's like, this ain't the typical guy that's gonna jump up. Next, we have Grady. Grady is one of my favorite characters in horror history, my favorite character in this movie. Pretty much every word out of his mouth makes me laugh out loud. I love Grady so damn much. And I love that actor as well. You know, sometimes they come back. He's been in a ton of stuff, and it just always love seeing him. And now, Lisa, I like Lisa. She's fine. I think she's a pretty girl, and she gives a pretty good performance. The only real problem that I have with Lisa at all is I don't really buy the love between Jesse and Lisa. Like, at the end, when love vanquishes the demon, we've seen that in a million movies. It's nothing new to us. But we don't really get a sense of, you know, their bond or their connection or anything in this movie. They're just kind of like buddies. And then at the end, because it's convenient to the plot, she's in love with him. And I just never felt that through the movie. And I also was like, really? She isn't running for the hills when he shows up at her house and he's covered in blood, and one of their teachers had been murdered the night before, and he's going on about how he thinks he killed him. And that, like, really? I'm sorry, this girl barely knows this guy in reality. I know she's got a crush on him, she thinks she loves him, but it doesn't even, like, she is like, no, like, I'm gonna help you out. Now, granted, in like a couple minutes, she does see that Freddy comes out of his body, and then at that point, yes, I would be like, I totally understand. But there's not even a moment where she's like, okay, I'm nervous, I'm scared, I'm not gonna lie, I'm probably gonna have to run. But no, she's just like completely, I believe you. Like, it ain't, you just haven't slept. He shows up covered in blood. A teacher was murdered. He's the new kid in town. He's been acting crazy. Trust me, she would be like, this guy probably did it. Mom, Dad. Anyway. And Jesse's dad, Mr. Walsh. I don't think did we hear his name? Shit. I don't remember. Anyway. He's such a cheapskate. He's such a fuckhead. Like, the shit he says in this movie, when he comes at him like, you know, what'd you use, firecracker? You know what he did? I know what he did. He used a goddamn M80. He's such a dickhead. He's such an asshole throughout this movie. You just want him to die, and of course he doesn't. And then we have Jesse's little sister, who grows up to be gorgeous in Children of the Corn 2. I was freaking out about it when I was reviewing Children of the Corn 2 recently, being like, oh my god, that's Jesse Walsh's little sister. Holy crap. She grows up to be gorgeous. The mom is just kind of serviceable. She's not really all that there, so I can't really say much about that. Now, parents that I'm kind of like, what the hell, is Grady's parents. You know, his dad is the dad from Ferris Bueller. But the mom, when he's at the door and Grady's like, Dad, let me out of here, and he's like freaking out, the mom is sitting there like so bored out of her mind. Until like the very end, like the blood comes in and she screams, she's nervous for like a half a second. But before that, she's just like, Now, Grady does say that he pushed his grandmother down the stairs to get to get grounded. I don't believe it. It's probably a joke, but I don't know, the way she's reacting, she's just kind of like, oh, God, our problem child's back at it again. I'm like, did he push her down the stairs? I have to laugh, though, that Grady gives shit to Jesse for not being into Tina But then later in the movie, this chick's all about him at the table, and he's just not having it. He's just like, whatever. He just keeps eating his food and talking with his mouth full. And she's a damn attractive woman. So I was kind of sitting there like, wait, you're giving Jesse shit for not wanting to go, like, she's female and she's waiting for you in the cabana and you want to sleep with me? And it's like, dude, that hot-ass chick earlier was hitting on you and you weren't even paying her any mind. So I don't want to hear it. When it comes to the dialogue, it's seriously impossible for me to even, like, I feel like I should just make a collection of videos, like, just, or like a string of, like, little clips, in a video of just all my favorite lines, like the deadly dinosaur. Like, anytime I buy a car or whatever, I always want to call it the deadly dinosaur when people get in it. Aren't you afraid someone's going to steal it? The deadly dinosaur? Like, nobody's going to steal my piece of shit. God. And the dance scene, come on. How can you not love it? How do you like that, Dad? It's so great. And when he goes to snap his fingers when he puts it on, I have to snap them with him. It's so great. Maybe I'm homosexual. Who knows? I don't really care. And I love in this movie that when Grady and Jesse get into a fight, that in the next scene, they're like broing it up. They're out on the field, and Grady's just trying to be his best friend. He's like, are you mountain or nightly or what? Like, that's just true of guys. Like, guys are just like that. Like, they'll punch each other in the face, and then 5 minutes later, they'll be buying each other a drink at the bar. Women fight, and they're fucking enemies for life. They paint the door red in this movie. It's blue in the first movie. And when I've been to the house recently, I did a video where I went to the house in this movie and in the last movie. And the door is still red, so they kept that one. And when Jesse goes to read Nancy's diary from the first one, like, he goes into it so comedic and so fun, and he's just sitting there, he's like, he comes to me, and like his tone, everything changes so fast, so dramatically. He's like, it's like head sweat. Oh, God, I've watched this movie way too many times. I notice every stupid little thing in it. And the majority of the stuff that happens in this movie, and I think this could be an argument for why people don't like it, because it's called A Nightmare on Elm Street, but a nightmare doesn't mean dreams. You can have a nightmare in real life. Like, there's plenty of things that have happened to me in my life that are a nightmare, and they're not while I'm asleep, unfortunately. They're while I'm awake, which makes it even worse, because a nightmare goes away when you wake up. A nightmare when you're awake doesn't go away. But the majority of this movie, when the, scares and Freddy and all the horrible things that are going on in the movie take place, they take place in the real world. Very little dream stuff happens in this movie. So I can see that being a negative, but I like it because it doesn't really matter if it happens in the real world or it's just like, is it scary? Now, Freddy has never looked scarier to me, and he's never been scarier. When he like opens up his brain, like, you've got the body, I've got the brain. Like, that shit's awesome when he rips his brain out. So cool. I mean, there'd be a skull between there, but who cares? And when he comes out and he breaks open the grill and the flames are burning in this guy, and they looks and he's like, the best line in the entire franchise from Freddy, you are all my children now. Like, that line's amazing. And then he looks back, like the dad has the gun and he's going to shoot him, and he looks through the flames, and you can just, like, his makeup is incredible. He looks fucking terrifying in that scene when he turns around and you see his eyes are just like yellow, and his fucking teeth and his face, and awesome makeup. The effects, let's talk about the effects. That scene when he's coming out of Jesse's body is incredible, okay? When he's ripping through his arm, and then he's like coming through his chest, and you can see him through his mouth, and then he rips in the body, and he's like coming out the bottom of him, and he throws his body off the top of him. Like, that shit's incredible. Probably my favorite in the series. We'll see, I haven't watched these in a while, but man, awesome work. Way better than the first one. I'm sorry. The effects work in this one is fantastic. And Carrie, There's her name. I'm like, I've been trying to remember it the whole time. The girl that's hitting on Grady, the friend, the cute friend that he's not paying any attention to. Carrie. Yes, thank you. Finally came to me. Anyway, I like when they're waiting for the parents to turn off the lights to go to bed so that they could party. And it's like, that's it? Just the lights going off? Like, as soon as they flick the lights off, that doesn't mean they fell asleep. Like, you might want to wait 5 or 10 minutes once the lights go off to be like, turn on them. They're waiting for the lights. Like, what's the difference between when the lights were on and when the lights were off? It's not like when you turn the lights off, like their hearing goes off. It's not like, oh, that signifies they took their hearing aids out. Like, wait 20 minutes at least. Jesus Christ. In Grady's room, we get a great shot of a King Cobra poster. Little personal story there. My stepfather growing up from like 2 till like 11 was the guitarist for King Cobra. Probably one of the reasons we owned this movie was because he had a poster in this film. So when Grady is beating on the door, Dad, you can see King Cobra like clear as day on the wall behind him. It's always cool to see. I don't know what movie he's watching on his TV when he's just flipping by for like half a second, but there was some Star Wars looking crawl text on the screen. I don't know that movie. I'd like to find that because I'm sure that's happened in other movies, but I haven't seen it in anything but Star Wars. And then obviously something like Spaceballs, but pre-Star Wars. I'd never seen it before. I'd like to find out what movie that is. I haven't looked it up yet. And I like when Grady gets killed and they hear the cops at the door and Jesse just escapes out the window. Like, really? Like, they got some shitty ass freaking police over there. Whew. There wasn't like another, like one of this partner down there, like looking for the window. It's silly. Like he was just able to escape that easily. It's, oh, Jesus. And we have Freddy rarely wears a glove in this movie. It's mostly just his hand with some, his blades coming through them. You don't get a lot of Freddy's glove. In fact, Jesse has Freddy's glove more than Freddy does in this movie. Like, he finds it in the boiler and he's holding it, and then he's wearing it multiple different times. He finds it in his drawer. Like, Jesse has more interaction with Freddy's glove than Freddy does. Like, Freddy almost always wears his hand with blades sticking out of it because he came out of him. But he's wearing his clothes, so that doesn't really play. It's not like why it just comes out of him. Why isn't just wearing the glove? Doesn't really make any sense because, as I said, he has his clothes on, he has his hat on, and he can bring items of cloth through with him. So why is his glove not there? Doesn't really make any sense. It's a cool looking thing though. Doesn't matter. I just was noticing it this time. Another incredible effect is at the end when Tina has defeated Freddy with the power of love. Huey Lewis in the news. His face melting scene. I've talked about face melting so many times, but incredible stuff. Such great effects work. We get some human faces on dogs in here. Reminds me of In the Mouth of Madness. And I like how freaking this girl who's rich, Lisa, she's riding the bus to school. Like, why is she getting rides from Jesse, and why is she riding the bus at the end of this movie? Like, what happened to the deadly dinosaur? Why isn't he taking his car? A. And B, why is freaking Lisa, the rich girl who has like a freaking mansion she lives in, not have her own car? It's silly. Anyway, but Jesse getting scared at the end, because Jesse's fear is what brought him in, and his weakness. Like, he gets strength at the end. Like, when she kisses him, that's the first time you can see, like, because he's fighting and she's like stabbing him and he's like, I love you. And she's like, I love you, Jesse. And that's the first time you can kind of see him shaking it off, and he jumps through the window. Another really cool effect when he jumps through the window and disappears and all this stuff keeps coming forward. Really cool shot. You can see that's the first time that Freddy, Jesse has power over Freddy, and Freddy doesn't like it. He's like trying to shake it off, like, no, and he like jumps through the window. And then later in the movie, she kisses him, and he loses all his power, and he burns up, and Jesse comes out. But then at the end, because of the bus, it's like he lost his confidence again. And is that what is able to let Freddy come back and rip his arm through Carrie? Or did that actually happen? You know, I don't know, because with these movies, you never know. Was Jesse dreaming again? Was Freddy in his dreams? Did it start over? Like, I don't know. So yeah, when I was watching, it was just like, Jesse gets scared, because at the end, like, he's running out of his house and he puts his arms up in the air. That's a silly scene, but he's like happy. He's beat it. He's on top of it. He's strong Jesse. He's been able to vanquish the demon. But then he gets in the car and it's like he gets scared, and then Freddy pops up like a minute later. Did he come through because of his fear? And then finally, this movie ends with a great song. Did you ever see a dream walking? Well, I did. Great song to end this movie with. Great song for the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. God, this movie makes me so happy. I love this film. Other fans out there, I know that Andrew Becker's with me on this one. I know that a few other people are with me on this one. Big fan of this film, as I've said about 600 times in this video. So I'm going to go watch Dream Warriors, which is like pretty much everyone I know's favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movie. But this will always remain my favorite Nightmare movie. All right, blast me in the comments all you want. I ain't changing my opinion.